Ahmaud Arbery was shot on February 23rd. You might have heard about it in the news in Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia. And the tale goes that he was out on a jog and a couple of guys saw him and thought that maybe he matched the profile description of a burglar in their area. So they chased him down in their car, and they say that they wanted to ask him a question. So he resisted, and then they shot him. That's how the story goes. And he was black, and they were white males. And this has been a recurring theme we've seen throughout history. There isn't really a good explanation or defense for them because they're not law enforcement. They don't have the right to go hunt down any burglars or chase someone down and shoot them. But they did it anyway. And I was thinking, when I heard that, I got really sad. I actually cried, and I don't cry that much. But I was thinking, well, how does this come about? How does someone, see someone jogging and they're like, oh man, we gotta, take that guy out or something. It's unclear whether, there was an actual burglar that was antagonizing them and they saw him and they knew exactly what he looked like and he seemed to match up. But with all the racial, tension we've had over centuries, it's kind of obvious that this was kind of just done out of ill temper, And I just was thinking okay, so how do we value each other better? How do we value humans more? And I don't think science or history has really helped us that much. When we look throughout history, all of the conflicts we've seen have to come down to how we value each other, humans. And specifically, I want to relate it to the theological concept of the Imago Dei and the image of God. Because if we don't see people as the image of God, it's very hard to love well and to treat them with the dignity and respect that they deserve. Because anything less than the image of God isn't good enough. It just hasn't worked for all of history. And so we can look at examples, and I could just go on forever, but I'll just give a few. So the Holocaust, Nazism and anti-Semitism was all not seeing the Jews as the image of God. Racism in the Civil War in America, that started because of that. And racism in ancient times, even when Israel was enslaved in Egypt, not seeing them as the image of God. And then today we have way more issues surrounding this subject. We have abortion, we have pornography, which is huge, we have abuse, we have rape, it goes on, and these are all Imago Dei issues. And so how can we see each other in a higher light and with dignity? And the more I did research on this, I realized a lot of researchers in the scientific communities were researching and writing tons of papers about this subject. I think because it completely changes how we live if we see each other as above animals, I want to say. Because with animals, we can domesticate them, we can kind of imprison them to a certain degree, and some people, are fighting against that, and that's not really what I'm going to cover in this speech. But I think I want to argue that humans are above animals. That science kind of puts us in to Homo sapiens and lumps us in as a species with other species surrounding us, we're closely related to. But when we look at the world we live in, we're not very close to chimpanzees. Think about the technology and the dominion we have. It's clear that Genesis 1 was correct in God blessing us and giving us dominion. Think about how we could just eradicate the planet if we wanted to. We could make any species extinct. It wouldn't take very long with our atomic, super weapon arsenal. So my question is, how can we share this or get other people to value humans like the gospel says we should? And after a lot of research, I didn't find any conclusive evidence where humans as a species are just better than other animals. There actually isn't much. I mean, it depends how you define the word better, but humans are like, we have the same functions of other animals. We have the same needs, similar desires. So there's no way scientifically or right now for me to say secularly, like give confident evidence to an atheist that we need to value humans better. I just wasn't able to find any, which is kind of, hard. But I also didn't want to have a God of the gaps, like, because science can discover new evidence and contradict something I would claim. Anyway, all that to say is, I really think that the gospel truth is the only way to communicate that we need to value humans better. Because I think it takes faith to believe that humans are the image of God. You can't believe that humans are the image of God without faith. You can't believe that we have a soul without faith. And C.S. Lewis puts it very aptly. I'm going to try to quote him. But, he says the people with whom we have our dealings are either everlasting splendors or eternal horrors. And that's very important, because when we start to see each other as eternal creatures, that puts way more gravity and depth to how we live. Like, we have a high calling to respect each other and honor each other and show dignity to each other. And this impacts everything we do, especially the relationships we have. I was thinking how, girls generally have a lot of image-like insecurity, and that comes from not understanding who they are created to be. Like, we're all created beautifully, and we're knitted together. God says, David writes in Psalm 139, we're knitted together in our mother's womb, and we're crafted beautifully, fearfully and wonderfully made. I think that's so important, because then we can have respect for ourselves, and it makes it so much easier to respect others and make good choices about our relationships. Today we live in a culture that's very sexualized, and so people use each other as objects. They're not using each other, or they're not treating each other like the image of God. They're just using each other for their own pleasure. Mm-hmm. And the image of God really contradicts that whole idea. It's the antithesis of that. So pretty much my proposal for all of us to take action. And, well, first I want to give an example of maybe what it would look like if people started valuing each other as the image of God. I'm hoping that we wouldn't have as many Ahmaud Arbery situations where you chase down a man because he's black and shoot him in the chest 2 times with a shotgun. I hope that, we can approach each other in love and actually love each other altruistically, without expecting anything back, just like God calls us to do. And there was one researcher, actually, I believe it's C. Daniel Bryant. He did research on altruism in the humans, because he was someone that was trying to differentiate, scientifically. And he actually found that humans can love and care altruistically, without expecting anything in return, as opposed to other animals, which, I think is a start. I still think there's gaps in it because we haven't fully observed all the animals, but that's why I'm saying it takes faith. So what we need to do is preach the gospel more. That's like the most important thing. In this time of the coronavirus, we're all isolated and we're separated, and it's hard. We don't know exactly how to do it. But I think Christians need to have a lot more faith in how we go out and approach others, and try to share the gospel. Someone else in my class was talking about how we don't need to go to church in a building. It's not about that. It's about the faith in the community and the love of Christ in us. And if we can share that with the world, it would look so different. And I feel like we've been very stagnant. Like, we look through our history. Recently, I haven't noticed, abortion rates going down, unfortunately, however sad that is. And, there's sexual slavery. There's so many aspects that are affected by this. In Oregon, where we are right now, physician-assisted suicide is legal. There's actually a lady living in Oregon right now who carries her in her purse, her pills, to just end it. And that's legal in Oregon. I watched that documentary while I was taking biology class at Wheaton College. And it's just crazy. It blows my mind. This is the world we're living in. But all I have to say, I just want to encourage everyone, share the gospel now. Like, it's so important. Every day is so important. How can we share the gospel? That should be like our mission when we wake up. And that, sharing the gospel is because we see people as eternal creatures. We know that they're going somewhere. As a Christian, we should believe that they're going to go to heaven. We should want them to go to heaven. So let's do that. That's my hope and prayer for all of you watching, and thank you. Do you guys have any questions? Sorry, I know it's a lot to take in, but yeah.
No, I think as women we do have image problems, but I also think it's because of our choices in sin. It makes us feel kind of guilty and feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah, no, and guys haven't helped that at all.
Right.
Because guys need to show respect and dignity and not take advantage of women in those situations. When I was looking into researching sexual slavery, I think it was 35% are forced marriages. That's
forced.
35% of slavery. Well, sorry, not just sexual slavery. Of all slavery, 35% is forced marriages.
Yeah.
Wow. And 15% is sexual slavery. But yeah, and then there's forced labor, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think men definitely need to do a better job of honoring women and respecting them. And it's really beautiful when that happens because there's this mutual, symbiotic thing that happens. Like, our relationships are so much more fulfilling when we're loving altruistically and not expecting anything, and we're not trying to take advantage or use somebody or objectify somebody. Just way less pressure and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
So are you saying sin has the greatest effect on human dignity? Is that
Well, I was thinking also what about serial killers? Are they created in the image of God? Yeah, they're beautifully created in the image of God, showing forth His glory. But when we commit sin, not only does that destroy the image of God in other people, it degrades that, but also in ourselves. So all sin is first a sin against God, and then against other people. So no matter what sin it is, you're sinning against who God created you to be. So I definitely agree. Yeah, sin is the antithesis of being created in the image of God. You don't have to ask the question, Ellie. You're good. Well, thank you guys for listening so patiently and attentively.
It was good.
Thank you.